What's up, guys? John here. I wanted to make a real quick video for you guys. This is going to be a technical video, and we're going to be talking about dropper elevators and observers, and more specifically, observer timing, and some misconceptions and some other info about observers, right? Okay, so what led me into this? First of all, if anybody's going to be familiar with it, Rapscallion and some of his friends released a new type of item sorter for Minecraft Java, and I'd seen it before, but I saw Ilmango make it, so it kind of got me interested in playing around with it. But anyway, I saw a link for a Bedrock user that made a Bedrock version, and his name is Awkward Carrot. And anyway, so previously, I didn't think that you could make too wide dropper elevators because I thought the bottoms would be, everything would be too chunky because it's Bedrock. But it turns out that he designed this system, and this is specific to, of course, we can make, one wide tileable dropper elevators. I think Navy Nexus was the first one to come up with a really compact design. I think Silent Whisper had one a while back that was a little larger, but still worked. But anyway, this is a too wide tileable design, and why this is so important and actually groundbreaking for Bedrock is because this has never been done before until Awkward Carrot designed this. And this relates specifically to these types of item categorizers that are only too wide. So they are too wide and tileable. And the way that this operates, which is what makes it so groundbreaking, is when the item comes up the dropper elevator, the very last dropper here in the chain has to try to push the item back into this top chest. So, this has been done before. I did that back with my half hopper speed item categorizer videos, but that was half hopper speed, which is a whole different ball game. So I didn't think that you could even do this at full hopper speed. But he figured out this little circuit on top with the comparator and the repeater. And the repeater comes around to turn off the comparator. And going through a repeater up here at the top is just the perfect setup to keep this hopper locked so that the dropper here can actually try to push an item into the chest before the hopper can pull the item out of the dropper. Okay, so this is just very new stuff for Bedrock. So he came up with this. Once I saw that he came up with this, I was like, man, that's great. So I figured out the timings, and I realized that you could just use extra observers here to actually correct the timing. So you can actually have a working model. And so this is a sorter that I made that is full hopper speed. So this is not what the video is going to be about, but this uses all of these dropper elevators. So they're too wide tileable dropper elevators, completely silent. This item sorter can deal with every item, so items that stack to 64, 16, and then non-stackable items come through to the output over here, or items that you don't have in the categorizer. But in all this comparator stuff is just for me to test the timing and all that. But anyway, so we may get into this in a future version, but this is just to show you how reliable these dropper elevators are, because I was able to pass through literally a full double chest of items, like full stacks of items to be sorted out, and it worked perfectly. Full hopper speed, nothing went in the wrong place, nothing got broken. So exactly what you would expect from those. So the video that I wanted to make today, so even though that was a nice little rabbit trail there to get off on, is about observers. So a lot of people don't understand how observers work. They just refer to observers as being buggy. Um, like we don't really understand how they operate. They're just buggy. And, when I poop in front of it, then it puts out a redstone signal, you know. And that redstone signal you can use to push a piston to push the poop out of the way or something. It's like we use them in a very archaic manner. But once you understand how they operate, it becomes much easier to use them, in a device. So that's what we're going to get into here today. So in Java version, the reason why you cannot make dropper elevators based on Java is because Java is designed to work properly. Bedrock, uh, so Bedrock had a bug with the observers that they decided to leave in the game, and now it cannot be removed because we build too much technology based on observer timing. And if they decided to change it, it would completely break everybody's everything. But so the bug with the observers, which I'll demonstrate for you, is that when an observer is detecting anything in front of it, it's whenever it's detecting a block update, it's going to have a 2-tick delay. Okay, and I mean, of course, redstone ticks. Okay, so an observer should, like in Java, it should only have a 1-tick delay. But in Bedrock, when you're doing something in front of it, when you're powering a repeater, when you're doing anything in front of it, it's going to have a 2-tick delay before it sends the signal out. Okay, and so we can demonstrate that here. So we have 2 chains of repeaters. You can see that whenever I power it, both the lights turn on at the same time. So of course, repeaters are exactly the same. But just say that I replace one of these repeaters with an observer. So now let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see that the repeater side is obviously flashing before the side with the observer. So what does that mean? That means that the observer is taking a longer time to send a signal than a repeater. So it's obviously longer than 1 tick. So how much longer is it? It is 1 extra tick. Okay, so they are exactly the same. So you can see that an observer, whenever you have it in a chain, you can just think that it's going to add, if it's detecting something, it's going to add 1 extra tick as compared to a repeater. Okay, so a 2-tick delay. Repeater has 1 tick delay, that has 2 tick. And that is except for when an observer is detecting another observer. Okay, so when an observer is detecting another observer, it's going to have a 1-tick delay. Okay, and this is very important to know the difference because we can, this can make or break a lot of machines. So here we have an observer just sending power out to a repeater. So if this observer detecting this observer only has a 1-tick delay, then our signal should be exactly the same coming out of it because it should be the same as a repeater, right? And as you can see, the 2 lights flashing at exactly the same time would indicate that it does indeed have a 1-tick delay. All right, so what does that matter with a dropper elevator? So in dropper elevators, of course, in this one very specifically, the timings are crucial. And dropper elevators, it's very easy to kind of figure out how things operate. And by the way, this is another thing that I realize is that if you're using a chest between your 2 between hoppers here to feed the dropper elevator. If you simply detect that with a comparator, the comparator is just going to output a 1-tick pulse. So you can actually use that to have a silent dropper elevator, and that's like everyone over there. It's just a comparator reading the chest. But anyway, so let's go ahead and try to count, how many ticks we have here, so we can see just how fast this dropper elevator is, right? Okay, so whenever we put an item into the hopper, the comparator is going to detect the item. That's going to power that, which is going to turn the torch off. And then as soon as the torch gets turned off, the observer is going to see that, and the item, which is going to be in this dropper, is going to get fired up, right? So let's just say that starting at that observer and that observer, that's going to be our tick number 1. So if we can say that our items here, you could say that on tick number 1, our item is going to move up into the second dropper. So this, because the observer is detecting another observer, so that's tick number 2, the item's going to move up. So tick number 3, item moves up. Tick number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay. So we have a total of 7 droppers here. So you could say that it would take 7 ticks, which is faster than the rate of 2 hoppers. So it would take 7 ticks to push the item from the bottom up here and to try to push it into the chest, right? So this is the whole reason I'm making this video is because you see this a lot, right? And I've done it myself. But to make a dropper elevator cheaper, let's replace some of the observers with a torch. And it sounds like a good idea, a pinch a penny, and I can have more observers to do something else with later. But do not do this, okay? And so there are reasons why I'm saying do not do this. And we can see why if we just go ahead and count the ticks, right? Okay, so that 7 ticks get the item from the bottom to the chest. All right, so let's start off again at tick 1 here. So that's tick 1. So tick 2, we got an observer, moves it up into the third dropper. Tick 3, aha. See, so you thought I was going to say at tick 3, it's going to move it up into the next dropper. Well, no, because now we have the observer detecting a torch, right? So that's going to add an extra tick because now it has a 2-tick delay instead of a 1-tick. So instead of being tick 3, it moves it up. No, it's going to wait until tick 4, right? So that's going to be tick 5. Then that's not going to be tick 6, that's going to be tick 7, right? So then we go up to the next, so that's tick 8. And then because we're detecting a torch again, so that's tick 10, okay? So we just went from being 1 tick faster than 2 hoppers, and now we're 2 ticks slower than 2 hoppers. So we only have 7 droppers here, but it's going to take us 10 ticks to move the item from the bottom up to the chest. So why is that important? Well, if you wanted to make a longer item elevator that went higher, you can only imagine how much longer time you're adding to this, right? But it's not just a matter of the amount of time that you're adding or wasting by, putting torches here instead of observers. Okay, it's also a matter of the operation of the dropper elevator. Okay, so like I was saying, these dropper elevators that are made to push an item into a chest, they have to be very, designed very specifically. All the timings have to be worked out because otherwise this hopper is going to pull an item out before it gets a chance to fire, and that's just going to break it. So if you don't want it to break, it has to be designed correctly. So to just show you how this works, put an item in, and it goes up into the chest, and I already had items up here. But you can see that it's very reliable, right? So let's just do one other little thing before we get into testing the other one. So I want you to hear, and hopefully the sound's not too bad, but I want you to hear the sound that the droppers make. Okay. Okay, so it's a very straightforward beat, ba 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 ba, right? Now if we listen to this one, uh-huh. So you can tell the difference by hearing it, right? So that's the extra ticks that are actually going to add time and add delay into your item transportation. But why that matters, so like I was showing with this, so it works flawlessly. Every item I put into the bottom is going to be moved up here, very quickly, faster than 2 hoppers time. But what about this one? Well, let's see. Okay, so we heard a noise. We don't have an item there. Okay, so it missed, the dropper up here missed. So the hopper pulled it out before the dropper could fire. So let's just go ahead and throw some in. Okay, so how many made it? None. How many made it into the overflow? Just one. Well, so where are the other items? Well, they are stuck in the dropper. So why does this happen? This happens because the timing is important. And we can just go ahead and show that it's like, this is not like, uh, it's not like I purposely made this broken just to, make my point. Because if we just go through, if I can ever get my controller to work here, if we just go through and replace all these with observers, then you can see that I just dump items in, it's completely silent. All the items make it where they are supposed to, and it works. So you can see how adding torches is a terrible idea. I mean, just imagine if you're trying to design a system like this, and just to be cheap, right? Just to be cheap, you decided to put a torch in there, you know, and that completely throws off the entire system. Then you're like, well, what's broken? I don't understand. And then you have to try to go through and debug everything, you know, and not to mention it, literally breaking the system and you trying to figure it out. But just imagine that you have a system like this. That is a huge system, right? And even though this is full hopper speed, so the item is going to pass through, every filter and then up every dropper elevator. Okay, but this is 14 slices long. Okay, so just look at how long it actually takes to travel, right? Okay, so it's taken a while. So just imagine that if we had an extra 3 ticks on every one of these dropper elevators, you know, so that would be quite an extra bit of time that we're adding to the system for nothing, just to replace the observers with torches, you know. So yeah, so keep that in mind. Um, use observers, don't use torches. They kind of throw everything off and ruin everything. Observers are less buggy than we think they are, as long as you know how to use them. Okay, when you chain them like this, when an observer is watching another observer, they are extremely stable. Um, when they are detecting something else in the environment, not too much. And that is another part of the problem of why you should not use torches here, because it does have a slight variation in the timing. I wouldn't say that it's buggy, but I don't exactly know what it is. Sometimes the timing can be different. Uh, and it's probably up to Bedrock's random redstone update order. But anyway, it's just a part of the game. But we should be used to the randomness and the bugs, right? But anyway, so yeah, that's all I got. Just to just wanted to clarify for the dropper elevators. Yeah, no torches. All right, that's all.